more. It's dropping, I should get more involved. So does your strategy need to change? No, your strategy shouldn't change just because the market has dropped. The purpose of your strategy is to weather the peaks and troughs, to go up and to go down. And you should adopt and keep one key trading strategy. You don't do different things hoping for the same result, okay? And you should continue to build your portfolio, and that strategy should be as resilient as the market. And if you need to change your strategy, then guess what? It's not a strategy. It's just a phase you're going through. When you look at some of the biggest financial experts, when you look at some of the biggest players, they're successful because they developed what? A strategy. And that's what you need to develop to stay safe. So, there are so many resources online for everybody, all right? But nothing can replace your own homework. Do your own due diligence. Ask questions, use people, use researchers, get as involved as you need to with everything that's in the market space, and keep track of all of your trades. The amount of times I talk to people that are active within the market and they can't tell you what they bought something for, what they sold it for, when they acquired it, when they disposed of it. I think I had that once upon a time. Oh, I think I sold my Bitcoin and blah, blah, blah. No, if they do that, they're not real traders. You should have accurate, reasonably accurate information, and I'm going to ignore the fact that even just as a lawyer I'd say that just from a tax perspective, but you should have some kind of reasonably accurate information. Guys, I want to thank you all for listening. I hope this has been really useful for you. If you want to find out more about me or more about Gresham, you can jump on any social media. It's all just at Mr. Cal Evans or GreshamInternational.com to find out more. I know it's Friday afternoon. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for listening in.
Thank you once again, Mr. Cal Evans. A big round of applause, everyone, for Mr. Cal Evans with the topic Staying Safe in a Downward Market. Okay, next let's welcome Mr. Ken James Barry, CEO and co-founder of Blockchain Network Philippines, with his topic, How to Build a Community in Web3. A round of applause, everyone.
Hi, hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Oh, it's not working. Sorry. A wrong button. Can we go back? Okay. Yeah. So, greetings. So let's talk about Web3 community building. And this is more interesting and exciting part. I'm your last keynote speaker today for the last day of this event, but this is not our closing remarks, okay? So let's think about your ideal community, why we are here. Do you think you're already that what's your ideal community behind? How we can create a real community in the crypto space? So let's think about it first. What's your ideal community? So let me introduce myself. So my name is Ken. I'm the CEO and founder of Blockchain Network Philippines. I've been in crypto space for 7 years. And let me tell you this, that my life and my job is all about community building. I created the first outsourcing company that's licensed in Davao City, Philippines, with 150 employees. And I'm just a 30 years old, self-made. I created a lot of things, working with 200 plus crypto projects. And now we are actively working with 42 crypto projects. So let's build a community. Based on my experience and expertise, community are always changing. Look, community are changing sometimes based on technological advancement, demographic shift, economic changes, environmental changes, political and social changes. But in the Web3, sometimes it depends upon on the era, the passion, and most especially, who would be the best target community. Sometimes it's countries, sometimes because of their, maybe of their communities that where belong, or universities as well. Building a community is really hard, believe me or not. It's, look, yeah. It's like, it's physical, mental, and emotional. And that's really hard. Sometimes people like building community, that's so easy. Managing Telegram, managing WhatsApp, managing Discord, that's really, really hard. When it comes building a community, you should encourage volunteerism. Encourage them on how to join and how to become a real community. And this is a real community. We exchange passion. We exchange our hobbies. What most especially we like. We lead by example, make it personal and make it accessible enough. And that's the way to easiest form to build a real community. In building community, let's focus on an organic way. Let's follow the process step by step. Creating a community is really hard. And in Web3, some of the projects, they're just creating thousands, hundreds of thousands of bots on Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord. And that's, and this is always happening in Web3. But we need to follow your step. Follow in organic growth. The Blockchain Network Philippines, we have our standards that we deal in the proper way. We have the content calendar advanced in a month that we make sure that we align on the said topics. We don't do bots. Yeah, we don't do bots. I don't care if our community is 5,000, but the online is almost 60% to 70%. Building a community is really hard. And in our company, we have our community roadmap. Community roadmap and hire a good community managers. One of the reasons why projects are failed, it's because they are hiring a moderator, not a community manager. You need to hire a good community manager. Actually, in the UK or some in the West, the community manager there is like costing like 1,500, sometimes 2,000, and sometimes 1,000 here in Asia. Building a community is very different. And one of the, sometimes they are failure because they think that the audience and community are the same. Building a community is very different. Audience is different. Audience is like you are just watching the movie and then that's it. You don't care about it. While the community management or community builders, they're actually passionate and care about what the actor is, who is the actor, who will be the director, producer, and so on and so forth. Community will support you whatever it is if they will believe on what you believe. The same on your project. The goal of building community is composed of community of engage. Loyal customers, build a loyal customers with deeper connections, not a fake audience. Hire a real community manager, not a moderator. There's a difference between that. Okay? The tips that I can give to you is number one, define your target audience. If you are your niche, if you are more in the play to earn, Web3, DeFi, you should take a look about this. And make sure if you define your target audience, you don't limit it on the Web3 only. Try to invite the Web2. Build relationship. Building relationship is very important. Let them ask why, how they find about your projects, where they came from. Ask them about the countries or what they feel about your projects. Provide value. That's very important. Foster engagement, encourage volunteerism, and provide recognition and make sure to measure the success. One of the greatest stories that I have, most of the bright people don't work for you no matter who you are. Ask yourself and think, what's your passion now? If you keep building this kind of passion, just share it to your friends. Share it and make your dreams a real community. Building a community is very different from building an audiences. Community is very important, and this gives us a real value, not just in Web 2, but also in the Web 3, and so on and so forth. So, share your passion right now to your friends. Just share it. Share it to your friends, to your families, to your colleagues, and so on and so forth. Let us build a community together, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. That was Mr. Ken James Barry on how to build a community in Web3. Okay, as we move on down to our final topic for the day would be, what will the future of NFTs look like for people and companies? There will be a panel discussion, so this will be the last one for the day. So let's welcome first our moderator, Roy Keck, CEO and co-founder at DeFi and Emerge Esport. A round of applause, everyone, please. And let's welcome our panelists, Ryan Liu, founder at Copia Corporation Limited. George Wong, head of Singapore at The Sandbox. Cholo Matputo, CEO and co-founder at Play It Forward. Stacy Ann Pearson, Amazon Web Service Web3 Business Lead APAC and Japan. And the final panelist, Eric Se Wei Neo, Executive Chairman and Board Director at Neo and Partners Global. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to all our panelists and our moderator.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So yeah, thank you fellow panelists as well. So just a quick introduction, and I'll pass it on to the speakers and fellow panelists for the introduction as well. My name is Roy. I'm the CEO for both DeFi as well as Emerge Esports. So for DeFi, basically we're the integrated comms agency, and we're also the official PR partner for this event. As for Emerge, we mainly deal with IPs. We have our own platforms that enables brands, projects to basically reach out to IPs or content creators as well, and we're currently backed by MasterCard as well as Walmart. So moving on, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for staying for the last session. My name is Ryan. I run my own consulting company called Copia. I'm very much not a Web3, but Web 2.5 guy. So what I do is to help Web 2 companies solve their Web 2 problems using Web 3 technology.
Hi guys, this is George. I'm the head of Singapore for The Sandbox, and what we do is we are one of the world's largest Web3 metaverses, and in Singapore we are building Lion City, which is a special region dedicated to Singapore-based companies or brands in the Sandbox metaverse, and we help a lot of Web2 companies ideate and design a model to make them, to find a new way in this new space, right? So if you have any interest in that, we can always chat. Thank you.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. My name is Cholo. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Play It Forward. So what we're doing is we're building the gig economy of gaming and the metaverse, whereby we're building a platform that allows brands to access our player base of 40,000 plus strong across ASEAN. And how we do that is brands can come on board and list what we call quests or small bite-sized tasks, from which accomplishing those allows players to earn from their time spent gaming. And we also are building an NFT ecosystem whereby players will earn NFTs with their achievements, which allows for better targeting for brands and also allows for layered benefits for our players. So That's what we're doing. And when we're continuing to grow, we got VC funding early last year. We really look at play to earn as unlocking this idle labor force around ASEAN, and that has a lot of, I would say, unused labor that can be leveraged by brands and games to achieve outcomes and increase their engagement.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Stacey Ann Pearson. So I lead the Web3 business initiatives for Amazon Web Services across Asia Pacific. Super happy to be here. For me, I'm coming from the Web3 space. So previously, I was working at a decentralized ID startup. So focused on, what do we need for international travel, especially during COVID, and how can we keep our data private using a blockchain. Before that, I was working with DigiNation, which one of our biggest projects was building out the Pudgy Penguin metaverse. Super excited about that one. And before that, I was doing blockchain research with Oxford University in China. So in my role now at AWS, I focus on helping to scale and grow Web3 startups, which many of you here today know that we work quite closely with the community. Looking forward to talking about what's the future of NFTs and the Web3 industry.
Hi, my name is Eric. Today I represent one of the 4 companies that I sit on. So New Partners Global basically is a fintech company that I set up in 2014, particularly in the capital market space, the traditional side, in the algorithmic trading side. But concurrently, I sit on the investment holding, which we invested in 2019 into the very first MES licensed digital securities in Singapore. Now it's called ADDX. I also sit on the board of a fund management firm licensed by MES, primarily in private equity. And then most recently, got myself into a family office board. And the latest is representing the GBBC, the Global Business Blockchain Council, as an ambassador for Singapore. So primarily straddled between the traditional capital market space and the digital finance space. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for the introductions, my fellow panelists. So let's jump straight into the discussion for today. So as you can see on the topic up on the screen, the future of NFT for people and companies. I believe our fellow panelists here have their fair share of experience and very experienced in this space as well. So there are a few questions that I have, right, as I'm going to moderate about this. I think that one of the most, I would say, interesting ones that I have on my board is that how have NFTs been used in the past, and what do you think will be the potential usage of it in the future? Anyone want to take stage? How about you, George?
Past and now,
Yeah.
and future.
Past, now, and future.
Well, I think in the past, people were degens, so people bought CryptoPunks and BAYC because they thought it was cool. So there wasn't really any fundamental thought that went into it, for those of you who are wondering why people would spend $1 million on digital monkeys. Later on, of course, as the community grew and membership value goes higher and higher, then the value of the community becomes stronger. A lot of us talk about community value. We can't really actually measure it sometimes because community strength is more important than community numbers, and we're used to having community numbers and not community strength, right? And then when we talk about community today, and moving forward, the value of community is there, but I think the market's starting to be a bit more mature. So, and I talk a lot about NFTs and community because that is what people are buying into, is the idea of being involved with the same community. Like BYC's popularity in today was very different when it was in the beginning. Because in the beginning, people were going to it for the cool factor, the Web3 factor, the degen factor. But today, people want to be in the same page as Paris Hilton or Steve Aoki and being in the same community because they are the same holders. That's the attraction, right? That branding by association. And that's one of the things that drives the value of that. And Timberland and so forth, right? So the profile has changed, and a lot of people can't understand because they're not following through with that evolution, right? And it's really quick. It's just in a matter of a year, the whole profile completely changed. So moving forward, it's a bit early for me to say it, but I do think that the value of NFTs is going to be in the case of how it's being used as a digital asset. In many cases, because I think the primary value that has been throughout from then and now is that NFTs gives you a very tangible feeling of ownership for digital assets, right? Because whether it's an IP, whether it's a real asset tied to the NFT, whether it's just the image itself, it's that ownership aspect that makes it valuable. It's what drives the value in it in games, because being able to own it and trade it between platforms or between games is that real value, but it's not commonly talked about. So I think for me, the one thing that's consistent is that aspect of ownership that NFTs bring, and that more and more attention comes upon it, and then the whole transactional aspect of NFTs inside games, inside metaverses, that how efficient it is, that would actually enhance adoption. So there's so many areas of how I think NFTs is going to just exponentially grow in the next 5 years.
Yeah, thank you so much, George. But I do agree with you on certain points, but I think in order for us to make this panel discussion a little bit more interesting, right, please do allow me to be a devil advocate here. Right? So I guess that you mentioned, right, there are a few names with regards to that, like the celebrities, right, Paris Hilton's and stuff, like you say Timberland. You know, I guess if I do say this by being the devil advocate, a lot of you here might probably stone me to death, right, for this. But I guess there's been an article, right, not too long ago, has been exposed that let's not name the project, right? It's a pretty prominent project, indicating that all these celebrities are paid, right? So all these, as we can know, are, like you mentioned earlier, right, it's just driving onto the hype, the degens and stuff. I guess determining the value of an NFTs are often, in the past, in my personal opinion, has been always being, oh, you know, my friends are doing it, the celebs are doing it. It's like the sneakerhead culture, right? So, in my personal opinion, right, to move on to the next few speakers as well, to understand your perspective, is really to develop a sense of value to it, right? Be it a membership system for the NFTs, or like what Josh mentioned as well, storage of value, instead of just chasing for the hype and craze that I personally believe is what NFT is all about. Previously, as Google have said, right, it's the most searched word, the buzzword of 2022. So I think as the hype die down, we can't just, you know, hype are always up and down. So to not just rely on hype and providing more value is my personal opinion. You know, Cholo, what's your thought on this?
Sure. I'll give a perspective from a standpoint of play to earn, which I think has gotten both good and bad kind of like reviews over the last 12, 18 months. But what we really see is, I agree with Roy in the sense that I think sometimes NFTs do get into bucket in that space where it's really a get-rich-quick scheme. And that's really been, I would say, somewhat of an impact, because in NFTs there is manufactured scarcity. Like they'll say a collection only has 10,000 things, and you buy into that thinking that you have something very rare. But we've seen communities have really gotten upset because founders have diluted their value by issuing more collections that have pretty similar benefits to what was issued. And what that also does is that it just makes the whole community really lose a lot of faith and lose a lot of respect for the project. And we kind of started out our life as an Axie Infinity guild, and we kind of pivoted because we saw that there is something more to the play to earn space, but at the same time, something like I always used to call Axies like colorful potatoes. I mean, that's which is very much, it's kind of like a game, a toy to some, but it was creating real financial outcomes to people. What we did find really interesting in the whole play to earn space is that it allowed players to marry their passion with an opportunity to earn. And where we actually see a lot of the value and the development of NFTs moving forward is not as collections that could go up in price and basically it becomes an investing game. But one of the really cool use cases we see is reputation systems, soulbound tokens, burning players' achievements and their profile onto an SBT or to an NFT, and them carrying that reputation across games, right? So while we think that the market for interoperable game assets is very nascent, we think that interoperable reputation is very, very important, and gamers value that. You want to be spending a lot of time in a game, and you don't want to lose all that value when you exit that game. You want to be able to carry something that represents the effort you put in, and an NFT representing your achievements is something you can actually carry to the next game. If I spend 20 hours playing Counter-Strike and I want to move to Valorant, I want to carry all of my Counter-Strike achievements into my Valorant play and not have to rebuild that in a new game.
If I could, sorry, go ahead, Stacey.
So I was just going to say, if I could add to that, that would be the piece that we have to remember to focus on, sort of taking the zoom out lens of what is actually the opportunity within NFTs. So I think the original use cases that are formulated around PFP or profile picture NFTs and communities built around the NFT itself, it was a great starting point. And as George mentioned, right, there will be a maturation of that, but that's just one aspect of the usability of NFTs. So going back to what he was mentioning around Play It Forward, right, in addition to what we're seeing within the play to earn space, we're actually seeing that play out within Web 2 communities that are looking to engage their fan base, their communities, and even their enterprises in different ways. So that's one case. So for example, you remember the launch of Reddit's NFTs, right? Or even some of the other ecosystems that have very rabid fan bases, right? Like the NBA and the NBA Top Shot NFT project, right? This is where you get to utilize NFTs to create community within existing communities where the focus is not on the NFT project itself, but actually ensuring that you're bringing additional utility to your existing community. So that's on one side. The second piece is then the underlying technology that is the NFT. So we are seeing use cases where the NFT itself is being used as a repository for information that can be shared across ecosystems. So one of the examples we see is around carbon credit offsetting, right, where you're utilizing NFTs for cross-border global settlement of carbon credit system, which maybe if some of you know, within the sustainability ecosystem, that is one of the #1 headaches for that. So, just thinking about what that future looks like, the beginning, which is around the apes, right, the punks, et cetera, any of the PFP projects, that was a great start. What we're seeing is a movement towards utilizing that technology into business use cases, business models, as well as community utility and generation, where the core is not the NFT project itself.
Totally agree. I was going to say on Cholo's example about the profiling of the individual that we can port over. Coming from a financial lens, I treat that as a patent of that individual. And once you can immutably load it into a smart contract as a record, it has some value to it, right? And then going on to what Stacy mentioned, again, if I take ourselves back to Cambodia, not many people know actually in just a few years ago, right? The Cambodian the National Bank of Cambodia wanted to distribute funds to its community members, right, the citizens, and they actually brought in the blockchain using a Japanese IT firm to develop it, and almost 200,000 or 200 million users were able to receive the funds from the central government through the app. And I was very astonished. I mean, from a very emerging country, they adopted that specific blockchain. Whether it's NFT by definition, I'm not sure. But again, then earlier, one of the speakers mentioned about the Hong Kong Monetary Authority recently came out with news that they have digitized a bond offering, right? That can also be an NFT, right? Because you can't split it, it's immutable, it's non-exchangeable, right? But so from a financial sense, lens, it has very wide applications for it. But again, I think in the past, there were a lot of abuse, if I could call it, right? And now, as what Georgie mentioned, it has matured to a level that I think that sets the playbook for future developments of it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of future, I mean, we've touched upon the ownership of NFT, which is very important. I'm come from a traditional finance background as well, so I look at it from the perspective of value. But what is value? So we need to attach some sort of financial incentive. Someone's going to pay for that value, and who is that going to be? For me, I'm looking at how can we use the traceability feature of blockchain to solve the incentive problem. One use case that I can give you is recently there's a World Cup, so in Qatar. So Budweiser actually engaged our company to help them roll out some, I mean, NFT, they didn't call it NFT. So every beer bottle comes with a QR code, but it's actually embedded with an NFT. And within that is the rewards and points, whatever not. So from the user's perspective is, oh, I can scan this QR code and then, I redeem the rewards. The beer bottles are all sold in Brazil. So Brazil is, is big in football. So from there, the campaign, Budweiser, what they can do is they can trace where the bottle is redeemed, at location, what time. So this feeds back the really critical information back to Budweiser to demonstrate how successful the campaign is. From there, we solve the last mile problem of when you pay $1 million to a KOL to tweet something about Budweiser, does that translate into sales? That's the problem that the brands have right now. But with this technology, now we can trace, this KOL, distributed X number of NFT to the followers, and these followers actually help translate into X million dollars of sales. So this KOL is really influential, something we call proof of influence. So this is, example of how we can use, we call it NFT or not, it doesn't matter to the user, because all they care about is incentive. How can I redeem reward? For the KOL is how do I prove my influence? For the brands is about how do I actually track the ROI of my marketing campaign. So that's I would say the future use case for NFT.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Ryan. I mean, you mentioned with regards to, to sum it up, these questions, right? Just to not waste any more time that we have. But I really agree with what you mentioned with regards to the terming of it, right? The end users doesn't have a care, right, if it's an NFT or not. In order to have a sustainability, we have to remove that sort of stigma, right? That sort of hype trend, sort of chasing stigma. And and as for brands and all this, I feel that the only solution will be proper education, right? Educating the brands, educating the general public, and also not trying to chase so much on buzzword. But of course, buzzword is easy to change, right? Easy to understand and stuff. But I think in order for the long-term sustainability or longevity of this, be it NFT or whichever we're going to term it, right? NFT 2.0 whatsoever, we have to really remove that sort of stigma into it and that sort of naming into it and focus more on educating them about the benefits, particularly for brands. Because brands, which links down to my second question, right? With regards to many Fortune 500 guys, right, has been going into NFTs, right? And let's not name them once again, right? But we do see that from startups to Fortune 500, many of them have started NFTs, right, in the past, and I'm sure that Sandbox itself has worked with most of them. I would say among all of us here, Sandbox has worked with most of them, but we saw that most of them are just in for the profits, right? In for the marketing craze in some sense, and there isn't really much longevity. There are some that focus on longevity, like Nike and stuff, but then there isn't much of them. So what challenges do you guys think they face, or adoptions and a sustainable usage of NFT long-term wise that can be addressed? Because my personal opinion, I feel that right now, most of the projects, there are tons of it, right? 2022, right? I literally lost counts, right? Thousands of them, but most of them literally no sound, no music.
Yeah. In terms of adoption, right? Education is very important, but I think the first thing that will pull people in is very much the financial incentive. There's so much to learn every day. There's free stuff to learn on YouTube, whatever, not on the internet already. You're asking me to learn another thing? What's the incentive? What's in it for me? So I think it all starts off with the incentive. Like I said, if I scan the Budweiser bottle and I get a 20% off or 1-for-1, that's my incentive. I don't care if it's an NFT or not. But over time, then you tell me the more I scan, the more I can redeem the reward, and then all of a sudden I tell you it's an NFT. Oh, okay, what does this do? Oh, there's a value now. It's traded on OpenSea, and it's worth, say $10. Then I would then educate myself. You don't have to